right, folks, we are back. It's the Infowarrior with Jason Bermas, and we are tearing apart this National Geographic hit piece from Monday night. Remember, folks, if you missed the program, you get the podcast over at the Infowarrior.com once a week. That's all we're on right now, is once a week. All right, so right here, it's the 3545 marker of the tape. They actually say that the fireproofing was knocked off, which is total and complete Johnny nonsense. The fireproofing could not have been knocked off all the way throughout the building. And by the way, when we were showing you that model of the plane hitting the World Trade Center a few moments ago, it cuts the steel beams. Now, they say that the wings cut through the steel beams inside the structure, not just the outer beams, all right? Yet later on, they show you the Pentagon simulation, and the steel, or the beams there, don't get cut. In fact, they cut the wings, and then they say that the wings moltenized, and so did the rest of the cockpit, and it was like a lava flow, having their cake and eating it too, saying two completely different things based on basically the same aircraft, a 757. Okay, so again, they are just totally and completely dishonest. But I will say this, they'll at least admit here that they aren't using a full-scale beam. No kidding, you're not using a full-scale beam. And then they say, oh, well, we just couldn't get one that big. It would have taken forever to mount it up. Aren't we trying to show what would have happened? I mean, the little pittance of a beam that they used in a controlled environment of 2,000 plus degrees is a joke. And again, the premise is, I mean, they never get it to moltenize. That's the premise of 9/11 Truth, that there was molten metal on the scene of the World Trade Center collapse. Not that it deformed steel. Yeah, fire deformed steel. You win. We never made that claim. Okay, so let's hit the clip.
And we're going to just go get the beam, and it's 20 foot, so we'll just center it up on here.
On one of the testing pads, workers construct a fire pit, which will contain a reservoir of jet fuel. Though the World Trade Center had fireproofing on the beams, the National Institute of Standards and Technology reports that material had been knocked off at the moment of impact. And where the insulation was dislodged, the temperature of the steel rose rapidly. So in our test, a bare beam is used.
We're not doing an actual full-scale beam because to load a full-scale beam would take an immense load. And so we've scaled it back. We just have a small I-beam. It's W8 by 18.
Oh, a small I-beam. Oh, that explains it. Oh, because we should use a small I-beam when we're trying to prove something that doesn't even matter in the first place. Now, he also admits later on, about 4 minutes later, that temperatures were not that hot. They were never 2,000 degrees. That's at 39.25. I'm going to give them a second to bring that up. So at 39.25, he admits the temperatures were not that hot. Then we're going to go to a clip from Loose Change 2nd Edition where you find out that the firefighters actually got up into the 78th floor. Now, I ask you, if they got into the impact zone, could it be 2,000 degrees? Could it be 1,800 degrees? Could it be 1,500 degrees? Could it be 700 degrees in there? Could a human body withstand that type of a temperature? So let's hit this clip where he admits that the temperatures in the World Trade Center were not that hot.
Will commence to lose its strength far below its 2,600 degree Fahrenheit melting point. Within minutes, an unstable structure is created. In the World Trade Center, this heat would have been more than sufficient to soften the steel. And this combined heat and the weight of the structure would have caused deformation across entire floors.
Of course, the World Trade Center managed to stand for more than 5 minutes after the impact. So they weren't seeing quite these kinds of temperatures. But still, this is showing that if you heat up steel...
So they didn't receive those type of temperatures, and you just used an I-beam that isn't to scale, and that's not what the steel beams in the World Trade Center looked like. And by the way, they don't want to tell you that human beings were in the impact zone, so it had to be a lot less heat. In fact, let's go to the clip. This is from Loose Change 2nd Edition. Okay, these are the firefighters radioing down from the 78th floor saying that they can knock out 2 of these pockets of fire with hand lines. Hit it.
To put it out.
We got 2 isolated pockets of fire. We should be able to knock it down with 2 lines. Where you know that? 78th floor, numerous 1045 call horns.
If the 78th floor was a raging inferno like the government would have us believe, then Palmer wouldn't have gotten as far as he did, and certainly wouldn't have been able to put it out.
That's right. All right, let's stop it right there. Don't want to talk about that, though. That's too much for National Geographic. See, they have to build straw man experiments and statements. Again, show me the 9/11 truther that ever said that fire doesn't deform steel. It just never happened. It's bull. It's malarkey. It's bogus. It's a lie. It's dishonest. But that's what this program was all about, dishonesty. And so, at 51 minutes, they try to say that truthers don't need to provide an explanation for how charges got in there. You're right, we don't. You know what we do need to provide? We need to provide the information that shows the physical anomalies that lead towards controlled demolition, and then find out how that happened. We don't have subpoena power. Gage makes a great point in this segment. All right, so about 51 minutes in, they tried to put the burden of proof on us without showing the World Trade Center meteorites, without showing the eyewitnesses of molten metal, without showing the eyewitnesses of explosions, and we'll get to that in a moment. But here they are. Truthers don't need to provide any explanation. Hit it.
In 3 weeks, it'd probably take us 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, maybe even do something like that. You'd have to have at least 100 guys or so or more to get in there and get something like that ready.
The truthers feel they don't need to provide an answer for how the explosives were planted.
This is a very different kind of operation. A real investigation would provide some of these answers if we had subpoena power, which the 9/11 Commission did not have.
Absolutely true. All right, let's hit it off there. Now, I want to show you the World Trade Center meteorite, okay? That is, I believe, the 4th YouTube video I gave you guys. It starts from the very beginning. And what this is, and it's admitted, again, these are the officials talking about it, is a fused together molten rock type of object because of the intense temperatures there. I mean, I had a debunker come up to me last year on the streets telling me that FEMA never reported 2,000 degree plus temperatures. I pull up the article. James Baker Sky, the head of FEMA in New York, talks about 2,700 degree temperatures and a cremation effect. And we'll show you the article here today, because that's not something Jason Bermas just made up. But I want to show you this World Trade Center meteorite, and there were many of them that were found at the site. Again, how does this happen without temperatures of over 2,700 degrees? Let's hit it.
Unusual artifacts to emerge from the rubble is this rock-like object that has come to be known as the meteorite.
This fused element of steel, molten steel and concrete and all of these things all fused by the heat into one single element.
And almost like a chunk of lava from Kilauea or Iceland, where they're very sharp but breakable shards on the end here.
Most of the objects that survived are from the underground concourses, such as these signs from the Trade Center subway station.
All right, so there it is right there, folks. Again, the guy completely talks about molten metal. He talks about molten steel. He talks about it being lava-like. All right, this is not Jason Bermas. These are the people that they hired to investigate the event. I mean, it is so hard for me to deal with someone who points to this, because I got a couple emails. Oh, your movie's been debunked, man. National Geographic debunked your film. It's right here. They put off some bottle rockets into some fiberglass. Debunked. And I'm watching this thing, and I cannot believe my eyes or my ears. Was it done shoddy? Yes. But it was done slickly, again, so that people don't even look into the other issues, and they think these are the issues that 9/11 Truth is about. They spent 2 hours on it. And they didn't spend 2 hours on experiments. They don't do an experiment for Building 7, by the way. They're just so cocky that one of the family members, by the way, dares them to show the building coming down, says, I hope you show it. And then they show it and they just move on. They don't show the implications. They just show the building come down. Kind of leave it up to the viewer. After all, they've already debunked us. They've already said that we have psychological issues. Okay, so then the next clip that we really, really have to show you is a little after an hour, 1:01:15, where they assert people reported explosions. And then they show you just some of the articles and excerpts. They don't want to show you the actual clips of people talking about explosions. But we're going to do that here. All right, let's hit it.
Although a search of the remaining beams and columns from the Twin Towers have found no evidence of an explosive reaction, some truthers are adamant that the towers were brought down by a controlled demolition, and these explosions were observed by eyewitnesses.
One eyewitness was standing among a crowd of people on Church Street, 2.5 blocks from the South Tower, when he saw a number of brief light sources being emitted from inside the building between floors 10 and 15. He saw about 6 of these flashes, accompanied by a crackling sound before the tower collapsed.
All right, let's stop the clip there. See, that's all they want to show you. They don't want to show you the montage of eyewitnesses from Loose Change Second Edition or Loose Change Final Cut. It is in the first YouTube video I gave you at about, is that, no, I'm sorry. It is not the first YouTube. It's the last YouTube video I gave you 15 seconds in. So if you want to play it from the bat, that's fine.